Good morning. I just woke up like, I don't know, 10 minutes ago, and I'm ready to do this part two because the other day I typed up my notes for this, so I will be reading it the whole time. If you haven't seen part one, watch that first before watching this because it'll make more sense. And I'm going to expand on some things I mentioned in part one and definitely mention some new things. I think I have about 37 points in total. I'm not going to edit it. I'm just going to just like run through this video, read everything, say everything as fast as possible. If you have any questions, please type them down below. And yeah, and do not subscribe to this YouTube channel because I don't use this channel. If you want to find my real channel, just type in my name, Keelan Hudson. Okay, so I'm going to start with point number one, acts of kindness. So I mentioned that in the last video, and I want to say that if you speak the language more, you'll be able to experience more acts of kindness just because you'll be able to form more connections and interact with people more often. And the other thing is that I know it's easier for people to learn some Italian before moving here, but I would suggest learning Albanian, which leads me to my next point, is some language tips. Because I've gotten better since the last video that I made, because I've been studying a lot more. And the mistakes I think that all grammar books make is that they assume that everyone understands English grammar. So I have a book, I mean, I don't have it, but like the lawyer, I'll leave his information in the bio. Like if you have any question about moving to Albania, talk to him. And he can also send you this book. It's really, really great. So like for example, in English right now, if you cannot point out the subject, the indirect object, the pronoun, the direct object pronoun of a sentence, if you can't do these things already in English, then you're not ready to start learning Albanian yet. So I'd recommend just doing like, a quick, I mean, especially for a native speaker, it's easy. Just like, I don't know, go online, look at some grammar stuff and figure out how to compose a sentence and what goes where and why it goes where. And once you understand these concepts in English pretty well, then jump into learning Albanian because in English, the concepts, I don't want to say they don't matter, but we don't really change our nouns that much, but in Albanian they change them. So it's good to know why these nouns are changing and what's not, and what nouns are changing or which nouns. Sorry, yeah, and I would say that doing this book, this is the way I recommend it. Like when you message him for the book, he sends it, is that don't focus on memorizing everything at once. Just kind of go through the book at least one time. Just like try to go through it because the vocabulary and everything gets repeated throughout the book. So kind of, it brings it back to your attention every couple of chapters or pages, which is really nice. And so like basically what I've been doing is just like doing as much as I can that book a day before feeling mentally exhausted, doing like 30 to 60 minutes of listening in Albanian. I'm watching kids show dubbed, like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Read maybe at least 10 minutes a day minimum, I would suggest. I mean, personally, I've been like 30 minutes like writing out word for word, like in a book, an hour reading out loud. Like I've been like going ham on it. So I would say read the whole book, study for like 1 or 2 hours a day if you can, and just keep up with your routine. And after you finish the book, like, I don't know, take a day or two to review the whole thing again. Next one, number 3, traveling within the country. Renting a car and driving is the most convenient way since we don't have like Uber here. We do have something called Smart Taxi, and I will give them a shout out because I really like them just because I can message them on WhatsApp. You can check out their Instagram page, just type in like, I don't know, Smart Taxi Toronto or something, or Albania, because like they can pick you up from the airport if you arrive. But let me mention that the last 2 taxis I had from Smart Taxi, they lost their mind because they was talking real reckless in that car. But nonetheless, it is still a great company. And I like it because they're reachable. There's another one I believe called Blue Taxi, maybe BLU or maybe BLUE, I don't know. And they also have WhatsApp, and they're a little bit cheaper by like $1 if you want to get picked up from the airport because they have set prices. When hopping on the furgone or like buses, to let you guys know, like when traveling, it's first come first serve, and they take off when the bus is full with people. So like you can find people yelling on the side of the street, like the city destinations will be like, do this, Flora, like this kind of yelling. And when those buses fill up, they leave. So again, it's first come first serve. And there's a really helpful website you can search called Giraffa. It's a GJIRAFA, and like it's super helpful. Google it, type in like, I know, Giraffa bus or something like this, and you'll find it. For politics, shout out to just a side note, I'm not well versed in politics here in Albania like at all, but I do know that I do know that like America is supposedly supposed to be an ally here, supposedly, but corruption keeps getting worse here. Prices keep getting higher. People are fleeing the country and like leaving elsewhere for better life. And historically, I think we all know that Albanian land is consistently being stolen and that their history is consistently being erased by Greeks, and other people. And they've been in this region, recently I learned, they've been in this region, like there's proof now for over 8,000 years. So it's like this new discovery in Pogradats, look that up, it's really interesting. So for me, it seems like there's like an intentional plan to push Albanians outside of Albania by making the prices go up and by having an unbearable amount of corruption. And because let's be real though, because we all know that the U.S. is corrupt. They do some really shady stuff. Because even one of the FBI agents here was selling like illegal services to Eddie Rama. And side note, let me just highlight this. One, I was really shocked to learn about Eddie Rama, him like studying in France, and he has like nudes on the internet. That was wild. Secondly, if anyone doesn't think the FBI is corrupt, please look at the current events from this year where the FBI entrapped these 4 black men who are Muslim, called them terrorists, planted evidence, and these men had to be in jail for over a decade, and they have just been released. And the FBI is not being held accountable. This is showing what kind of corruption we deal with in America, so please don't think America is not here doing corrupt shit as well, because they are. Let's keep it a buck. The next thing, because like for me, there's no reason that the U.S. is such a big presence here and things are only getting worse. Make it make sense, because it's not. The next thing I want to talk about is mindfulness, because I know that we all love Albania, all of us living here. And we're happy to be living here instead of living in the U.S. at times. But people come here, like they make videos and they call things cheap. They talk to locals, they say, oh, everything's so cheap. And it's a bit disrespectful to locals because this is not cheap for them. Or when we move here, I know that our quality of life typically improves, but we just have to remember that it's not improving for the majority of people. So just some mindfulness when speaking. Cause like, listen, I say some ignorant stuff, and like my friend recently provided me with a nicer perspective, and I was like, yo, it's so nice here, I love it so much. He goes, but do you work for an Albanian company here and make a local salary? I was like, oh, shut my ass right up. Because I think foreigners were not having the same experiences as Albanians, so just be mindful with talking to locals. Like, stop highlighting the things that only foreigners benefit from, because it can be disrespectful. We all do it. I do that shit all the time, and I have to catch myself consistently, just because when you're experiencing something so nice and you want to share it, and you're like, oh, wait a second, this doesn't apply to everyone. My 6th point is, do you want to live in Albania, or do you just want to leave your country? I think is a very important question to ask yourself. Rewind if you want to hear that repeated again. Because what I've seen is most foreigners don't actually want to live here, and they just want to leave the US, and this place offers them like a comfortable lifestyle. It's easy to move to, but it's very rare to meet people that have been living here for like 6 to 9 years and like actually plan on making this their home. So also keep this in mind when making friends, because if you plan to stay, it kind of sucks if you have to make friends every year, every 2 years, because these same people keep rotating in your life and leaving. So if you are planning on staying here long term, local friends. Make friends with people who have their life set up here and actually plan on staying. Topic number 7, dating local women. I keep seeing this online. I'm going to try to approach this carefully, but realistically, based on what I've seen and heard, I'm going to speak to men, and I'm also going to speak to lesbians. But first, let me speak to the lesbians who also date women. So like the LGBT community here is pretty messy. It's messy in general, I know everywhere, but here it's like really, really messy because everyone knows each other. So if you're a girl dating another girl, you probably can show more PDA than 2 guys here, because it's really normal for girls to walk arm in arm or hand in hand, at least here in Tirana. That's all I can say, because I don't really know much besides that. Now for the men interested in dating, you can use dating apps like Tinder, but there's a lot of fake profiles. Keep this in mind, because people here, it's kind of like I mentioned in the last video, it's like a village where people may not want to be seen, because people on the streets talk. And there's like a human surveillance system that stops girls from wanting to date sometimes, because they don't know if their brother is watching, or their brother's coworker is watching, or their family friend is watching. So you might not want to approach girls in public, because she might not be interested because people are watching. And a lot of people here date for years and their parents will not know. So like, ask yourself, why would they risk going on dates with me when this person wouldn't even want to tell their family if we were an official couple for a couple of years? Like, I don't know, you want to date a girl, but that can also affect her privacy, so really keep that in mind. And not only that, like, men here are really possessive. Like, people will call a girl a whore, or they'll call a girl a slut just because she's going out and having a good time, like doing stuff that I know party girls do. She'll get a reputation for that. And I also see a lot of people asking this on Reddit, on the comment section here, just in general, about dating Albanian women. But I'm pretty sure some of y'all might be ugly too. And I'm not saying this to be rude, but I think this is the reason why people have trouble dating Albanian girls, because I've never heard a good-looking guy here say that they've had trouble dating. It's only the average-looking guys or less attractive guys that have this issue. So just keep that in mind as well. Like, your looks probably may stop you from dating Albanian girls, because I've never heard like good-looking guys say this. I'm not really even interested in them, and I don't think I'm like the best-looking guy, but I've had a lot of girls show interest in me, Albanian girls, like stop me on the street, hey, how are you? Like, just talk to me, show extra interest. So I'm like, if it can happen to me, like if you're a decent looking guy, then you're good. If you're ugly, then no. Now, If you want to pick up superficial girls in a superficial way, flash that money, which I think is international news though. And if you want to meet Albanian girls, I suggest making more Albanian guy friends and having them introduce you to some girls, like actual friends, not just like, hey bro, what's up, show me some girls. No, actual friends, so they can introduce you to someone. So if you're here for less than 6 months, don't even bother, because how can a person recommend you when they barely know you? Like, give them time to get to know you. But if you're staying here, I'd say the best chances you have are to join some like expat group stuff, because I'm pretty sure there'll be like local Albanian girls there who already speak English and you can become friends with and whatnot. But most importantly, always respect women and respect their spaces, please. And people who typically ask this question, I think, are normally just looking for sex or something superficial like that, or like they'll say we're getting to know the culture, which I think is BS, because there's a million other ways to get to know the culture. You don't have to date someone to get to know the culture. You can fucking get a roommate. Sorry for the cursing. You can get a roommate. So I'm calling BS when people say, oh, I want to get to know the culture. No, you don't. 7.5, this is a half a point. What did I write here? So this is for men who don't have high standards. And I'm not judging when I read this next part, even though it probably sounds like I am. But you know, they got strip clubs out here. And there's a chain of them. So I suspect they're also doing like some human trafficking on the side with these Russian girls, because like, why do you have a chain of strip clubs here in Albania? They have prostitutes here as well. There's always some lady walking in the center of Toronto with some outrageous lipstick eyeing people down. They have massage parlors with happy endings here, I've heard from people. But then again, every country in the world has this, so it's not really a surprise. And I know some of y'all want to know this information, but it exists everywhere in the world, not just here, so you don't have to come here for that. And also, I'm really not trying to judge, but this country doesn't need any customers in this sector, but it exists just like it probably exists in the city that you live in right now. Do what you want with that information. Next point 8, homophobia. So the majority of gay men here are DL, like in Atlanta. And there are men out here with whole families, wife and kids, pretending to be like this macho straight man, getting that behind tapped every night by other men. Like, they are out here. It's outrageous. This stuff happens. And the straight community here has no idea this is happening. They're like, no, this man is straight. Meanwhile, this man, like, come on, bro, get out of here. Like, he has a wife and kids, that doesn't mean anything. But if you want to know how homophobic these people are, I'm going to leave. You can look up Joq, Albania. Joq, Albania. Look at their IG posts. It's like World Star, where they post a bunch of ghetto shit. I want you specifically to check the comments on the homophobia. I'm going to link 5 posts in the description. And please read the comments, hit C translation if you need it, but sometimes it doesn't always work well. But it'll give you an idea of the scope of homophobia. You'll see like the demographics of people commenting hateful stuff, wishing death upon people, congratulating persecution, congratulating murders. Like, it is disgusting. And I suggest checking from your phone and not your laptop, because the comment section displays in a different order. And if you do this, please type out the most ridiculous comment you've seen on this page in the comment section below. You'll see like women in their, 20s just saying like people you would not expect it. People you expect to be the least homophobic and be the nicest are some of the most evil people you see in the comment section. And it's a lot of people here to really give you a scope of, if you really know what homophobia is like, check this page, check the comment section, check the number of likes that these comments get. It's crazy. It reminds me, like, sometimes like when I'm on like some African news channels, and they'll talk about like, I don't know, how homophobia is banned, in the comment section there everything is hateful. It's exactly like that here. The other thing about this channel, I want to say that it incites a lot of homophobia because they know how their audience is. It's just Albanian rules there. That's all it is. So yeah, if you want to know how homophobic this place is, let the people here speak for themselves and let the comment section speak for itself. Also, if you're a trans person coming to Albania, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. If you don't look like the gender, let me also read this so I don't mess up. If you don't look like the gender you identify with, then good luck. And what I mean is that if you're a woman with manly features or a man with feminine features, you're gonna have some problems probably, because people here are gender phobic, they're more gender phobic than homophobic. And what I mean is that what they see visually in front of them comes first. So for example, I can be gay, but how would anyone know I'm gay? Like, how would you know? And when no one knows, they don't care. But imagine I have like, this jawline and I'm wearing woman's clothes. It's obviously gonna be a problem here because they have very defined looks of what a man looks like and what a woman looks like here. You can even see what an Albanian looks like versus a foreigner. It's very copy paste. So anything that's like, you know, not copy paste is going to attract a lot of attention. Men here are hyper masculine, and a lot of the women here, not all, a lot of women are hyper feminine most of the time. Again, not always. And even if you're a straight man who is very feminine, you're going to have the same problem. And this is what I mean by gender phobic. I don't know if that's a word or not. But like even in one of the links above that I'm gonna post here on the IG page, they show up an image of one of the trans people here who got beat up. So for your own safety, like I think a lot of them come out at nighttime typically, or they walk with a group of people that have their back. But I would not recommend coming here alone unless you can pass for the desired gender. Like if you're a biological man or male, sorry, but a woman, and no one can tell the difference, like you have no jawline, your shoulders are not broad, then you'll be fine. And the same for biological women who can pass for being a man, then you're fine. And honestly, there's probably not even any trans people considering coming to Albania or watching this video, but I just want to touch on that just in case, just so y'all know, so y'all can be safe, because like it's dangerous for y'all everywhere. I get it, and here I would not want to risk that. But then again, if you, let me add this, I didn't write this down, but for example, let's say if you're a trans person but you're visibly not Albanian, or let's say not white, you'll probably have less trouble, because if they assume you're Albanian, man, good luck. But if you, I don't know, maybe if you're black and trans, they might be less likely to interact with you because they realize you're not one of them. Point number 9 is the phone company called One. Don't get them. Get Vodafone or get something else. Like they've had so many issues with their like payment mistakes, and the line is always long. I just want to throw that out there because like they merged with my company that I had before, and now I hate the service. They lie on the phone and they expect customers to take responsibility for their mistakes. It's a whole mess, so don't get them. 10, weed. They legalized medical marijuana that can only, like you can grow it, but you can only sell outside of the country. And I think to start a business, you have to have like 85,000 or something like as a base. So basically this new law just allows current drug dealers to become richer because it's not helping anyone except them. This is just another level of corruption. And if you want to know about if you want to know more about actual weed laws here, contact the guy in the description, the lawyer. I asked him once, but I don't actually remember. But he can tell you like all the updated stuff, like what's legal, what's not legal. Also, if you're on the beach in Saranda, sometimes lower too, these young boys like, I don't know, 15, 17, 20, will offer you weed at an exaggerated price. So like, oh, we're selling it for this much. It is 500 lek for a bag of weed. Like a little dime, I don't know the measurements, but it's 500 lek, €5. Anything more than that, if they're paying like €10, you're being scammed. And this is in Toronto, the price, so everywhere else it should be the same. But again, if you're a tourist, you don't really have much wiggle room, because if you don't speak Albanian, they're not gonna give you that right price. You know what I mean? I haven't bought any, just saying this for a disclaimer, ever, and I have never smoked before in my life. Let's see, quality. The quality of it, so one of my friends said the quality of here is shit. He said in his country they call it oregano, but it's just naturally grown here. There's nothing crazy, nothing added. It's just straight from the plant to the whatever, to your joint. And 11, beaches. And so man, the tourist season is making prices go up so crazy, and I really hate to see it. Like I went to Ksamil for the first time this year, and it was $30 or 3,000 lek for an umbrella. And I was like, how in the world can a local family take their family here when it's this expensive? And there's companies that will take you to the beach and do day trips, like Giri Lalazit, which is a beautiful beach. And they'll post like flyers on a pole, so you pay attention to those when you get here. They'll have like a phone number to call or whatever. I went to the beach recently. I think the other umbrella I paid for in the north was like €5. I went one in Saranda, maybe like €10, depending. I think 5 to 10 euros is like the average. And every beach is beautiful, the whole coastline. Point number 12, religion. This is for the Christians. Please stop coming here to bring your beliefs and share the word of God. It's not helping anyone. Let these people get a break before you add more distractions in their life. And I'm saying this respectfully because I know people are coming here with the greatest intentions and trying to help. Also, stop using teaching English as a means to push beliefs. Please cut that out. And if you're coming here, it should be to learn and not to teach. When people want to learn, they will go to the teachers themselves. The teacher doesn't have to come to them. So if you come to Albania, come here to learn about their traditions, their beliefs, and keep that religion out of the country, please. You can come here religious, just don't bring it to people's doorstep. Like take that savior complex, that messiah complex, messenger complex, whatever it is. Keep it elsewhere, because I'm one of those people that kind of came here for that reason, exactly, and I regret it so much. And just also like hearing the way that locals respond to religion, it's like they don't want it either. Just be that mindful. I know people see it as an opportunity or untouched territory. Leave it alone. That being said, there are churches here. Like if you're African, there's an African church somewhere, there's a Korean church somewhere. We got sects here as well, like the Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses. I think the Moonies are here, another Korean one. There's mosques everywhere, so you can practice your religion and whatnot. And I'll give you a quote by Father George Fista. This is his name, translated into English. I guess one of Albania's, I don't know who he is to be honest, but here's a quote from him. It's a famous quote. It says, "In case they don't want us in a single country because they tell us that Albanians are Muslims, then we Christians will melt our crosses and make them bullets so we can defend our Muslim Albanian brothers." So if you're bringing religion that doesn't unite people like this, where they'll defend another human no matter what those beliefs are, then don't bring them here. You're only bringing something that will divide people, and that's the last thing they will need. That's the last thing they need here. So keep that in mind and rewind if you need to hear that again. Point number 13, black hair. So actually, we do have some people from like Gabon and maybe Cameroon. I forgot where. I know one was from Gabon, and they braid hair. I don't know what their username is on Instagram, but it was like Layla Braids or something like this. I know they're on Ruga Dursit, last time I checked, right across from Hotel Colosseo, and they braid hair. Hella expensive. It was like $300 when I asked for my friend, but they do it. And yes, you'll see a bunch of Albanian girls here walking around with micros, braids, cornrows, and just because they think it looks cool or trendy, and they don't mean anything by it, and they don't see it as cultural appropriation. And that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna dive into that. And for guys here, there's a guy in local. He cuts black hair. I've seen his work. I think he's good at doing just a basic fade. His name on Instagram is like ID Haircuts, like ID or something like that. And it's not great, but it's the best option. I've seen a lot of people, a lot of different people like from like Nigeria and whatnot go to get their hair cut by him or get their hair dyed. Pretty sure he's not dyeing it the correct way for black hair or doing it. I'm pretty sure the care part of black hair is not being considered. He's just cutting it and doing what he thinks is right, so probably will damage your hair if you're really concerned about it. But if you need like a quick cut or a fade, I'm pretty sure he can handle that. And it's some like Albanian dude with like blonde hair. 14, racism. A lot of people have been asking about racism, talking about it. I think I've explained it already, but I'm going to try to explain it again, maybe see something different and read this as well. Yes, there's racism here. Racism exists everywhere, but yes, there's racism here. They are most racist against the Roma people, or gypsies as some people call them, and the Egyptian community that lives here. Example, there's been like this episode I saw recently on TV, I saw it on YouTube, where like they're dressing up in blackface and pretending to be a Roma person, which is degrading, but people here don't see it as problematic because there aren't many Roma voices, and again, people here are highly ignorant of this type of stuff. And so this type of racism like will affect like a person's dating life, their jobs, how people respect them. And that's not the type of racism we have to deal with as being black, because it doesn't affect our finances. There's no systematic racism here like in the US. But I will give 2 examples of not racism, but like unfair treatment. So last year we had a girl from, was it this year she died? I'm getting confused with my time, I'm sorry. But recently we had a girl from Kenya. She was here working at a casino. She was beaten up and thrown off a balcony, and basically the whole thing was covered. It got no coverage and it was silenced, and she was in the hospital in a coma. The expats here were trying to raise money for her. Her mom came here from Kenya. Eventually they went back to Kenya, and she died not long after. So she was beaten by who? No one knows. But the person had enough power to get that mess hushed. And this is an example of a black life not mattering here. But if she had been American black, I'm positive it would have gotten more coverage. So this also points out that your passport privilege weighs more than your actual race. So if you're a black American, you are black and American at the same time, but just know that you are American at the end of the day, and you have this level of privilege that the locals here do not have. I know somebody else who is black adjacent, that's the best way I can say it, black adjacent, who got attacked by a racist man who was yelling like racist stuff at him. The guy hit him, I think, with a brick in the back of the head. Not hit him, attacked him while he didn't know he was being attacked. Attacked him back in the head, caused nerve damage, just because this guy was of color. He's maybe like, a little bit darker than me, or my complexion probably. So these things happen here in Albania, but they don't happen often. So it's not like I'm telling you these stories, but it's not something you need to worry about. Like, trust me on that, because I'm the last person. I don't want to fucking. I'm sorry. I don't want to freaking live in a hood neighborhood again. I'm done with that. I like it here in Albania. So I say this to say that, yeah, a black person with an American passport will have a very different experience here than a black person with a weaker passport. And just keep in mind that people here are very ignorant. Like, if you're an Asian person coming here, don't be surprised if you're walking by a group of teenagers and they yell like ching chong at you, or they like do that thing where they push their eyes back. Like, do not be surprised. And if you're black, don't be surprised if someone yells, oh, niga, like this, because this typically happens when by men only, when they're like younger men, and when they're walking with a group of people, like with their friends, and they do it as a joke with their friends. I don't know why, because I think it's ignorant humor. And whenever that happens, I just flip off the middle finger and I just keep walking, because I don't have time to interact with really ignorant people. And I'm tired of explaining to people why the N-word is offensive. People make, oh, it's the music, this is how we learn, yada. I really don't care what the reason is, and I just don't interact with it. So generally, the type of racism here doesn't impact your life too much. Like, maybe you'll have to pay a little bit more, but this is just because you're a foreigner. It applies to everyone. It's not just because you're black or Asian or Latino, whatever. Maybe your taxi driver might charge a few more, or your fruit vegetable place might charge a little more, but there's nothing systematic here, because there aren't that many of us here to begin with. And interesting, you'll find out that during there was a time, I don't know exactly when, you can look it up, like you look up Afro-Albanians living in like Ulcin, like in northern Albania, and it's just very interesting that when the rest of the world saw us as property, they were black people living here, integrated into society at some point. I know they didn't come here integrated, but they were integrated before a lot of other places. One thing, I've seen people claim online that things were racist when they were just actually misunderstandings. And again, I don't want to deny anyone's experiences, but there was some lady on TikTok saying something really outrageous, talking about how they're being racist, but she was being belligerent inside of a restaurant. So like, stop, behave normally. I can't trust people's experiences all the time with racism, because I know some people look for it. I know a lot of people actually experience it, but it's kind of just like, you have to take their word at face value. What else did I want to say? One second. So I think if you're the type of person who, if racism is like always in the forefront of your mind, and you really can't differentiate or distinguish between racism and other issues, I would not recommend coming here, because this is not America. This is Albania. This is not like the rest of Europe. You're coming to a post-communist country where people are really ignorant and have not seen many people who look like you. Like all of my friends, I'm the first black friend for everyone that I know here. Like, I am the initial contact. And the same way, like Japanese are low-key racist because they have a homogenous society, you'll find that here too as well. But if you adapt to the culture, I think you'll be completely fine. But you can't come here and expect to behave like you do in your own country, doing, I don't know, really American shit, because, you know, there are a lot of obnoxious Americans who come here expecting things to be like they are in America, expecting great customer service all the time, expecting that the customer is always right. While I do agree with these values, just this isn't America. Like, you have to know your environment, adapt to it before you come here. You can't come here knowing this and then complain about it, because that's just stupid. It's like hopping into a lion's pit and then saying the lion bit me. You knew what the lion was before you got in there. Like, come on. Again, I don't want to deny people's experiences, but I just want to emphasize, like, there's the differences between ignorant racism, misunderstandings, hateful racism, and systematic racism. And here, typically in Albania, we just have a lot of ignorant racism for people who are like of African descent or of Asian descent. But the hateful racism is more towards the Roma group, from what I've seen. And yes, somebody might ask to touch your hair or touch your hair. And is that rude and ignorant? Yeah, it absolutely is. But someone will not, I don't know, deny you of a job because you have dreadlocks or something like this. And someone might call you the N-word in the street without knowing you. But if a CEO here gets caught saying the N-word in a message or anything, that CEO will probably not get canceled. And just keep those two things in mind, because I hope that summarizes what it is like here. And if you're black, you will experience racism on different levels. And we know what you can tolerate is what I would say. And if you can tolerate what I've said, then come here, because like racism is not systematic or hateful, it's just ignorant. And if you can tolerate, I mean, it's better than the racism you would experience, I don't know, in Alabama or Mississippi. Like, they're making laws. Like, you have seen what's going on in the U.S. right now? They're making laws to erase history, and that's like the first step of keeping a population ignorant. Anyway, sorry for that. Point number 15. I'm only at 15. I've been talking for 29 minutes. All right, money. Someone asked about this recently in the comment section. There are currency exchanges everywhere. All of the ATMs charge like $5 to $8 now to take money out, and there's like a commission from like 2 to like 8% from what I've seen at different ATMs. So there'll always be a charge. Keep that in mind. Contact your bank before coming here to let them know, because if you don't, maybe they'll think it's fraud and someone's trying to steal your card. Some ATMs offer euros, that's correct, but again, there are currency exchanges everywhere. So if you need money, you can easily withdraw it. 16, I'm going to address some questions. This question I think I've seen on Reddit. I've seen a lot of Albanians from the diaspora who speak Albanian, like understand it, but they don't speak it perfectly because like they speak in a dialect or they type in a dialect. And I don't know why they're always asking online, how can I improve my Albanian? Read a book. Like if you speak language already, read a book. Watch TV, read, consume Albanian media. Because you already have the basics down. You just have to read and figure out what's the proper way to say it and how you thought it was said, and then, you know, reverse those or switch them out. Just read, that's all. 17, earthquakes. So we've had a few big ones. I'd say probably like 2 of them in the last 3 years, and they don't happen that often here, so it's not something to really worry about. But I just want to say that most buildings here are probably not built up to like, you know, that earthquake code. And I would say there are virtually no buildings with fire escapes. Keep that in mind as well, because like you have to walk by everyone's apartment to typically go down steps. And I don't even know if you could, to be honest, if you want to check that if your building can handle certain magnitude, I don't know how to check this. And if you can figure this out, let me know, because that would be really helpful. And I was like, during the last earthquake, I was the one that had like an old, let's say, communist style building, and on the 4th and 5th floor, I felt everything for that. Not the big earthquake, but for the like the one that was like a 4.5. My walls were like cracking, like paint was like chipping off the wall during the earthquake. It was terrifying. The tiles on my floor cracked because it was moving so much. The next point, number 18. I wrote Hawaii versus Albania. Okay, yeah. So you know how the U.S. like colonized Hawaii and they're driving indigenous people out with higher prices and stealing land. That's kind of what's happening here as well. Because you'll notice that by all Albanian borders with other countries, on the other side of those borders, it's just Albanians, which means the land was stolen. So if you Google a map of Greater Albania, you'll see what it should actually look like. Like that nice Greek island called Corfu, it was Albanian. All these beautiful lakes and mountains, like in this region, they used to be Albanian, and this land has been taken from them. And now the prices are going up a lot. And these people aren't even fighting foreigners, but welcoming them, which is so crazy. So just be mindful, because like if I was them, I would be pissed if all these foreigners kept coming here buying shit and we can't afford it, prices are going up, and we're being pushed out the country, and like our population is dwindling. So I compare it to Hawaii because both of these places are really beautiful with the coastline, and here in Albania, like villas and housing complexes are popping up right and left that locals cannot afford. Now, mind you, I know some of this is money laundering for drugs, obviously, but it's creating a problem because wages aren't increasing, but prices are going up. So this is a reminder just to not contribute to the problem. Like I know you can probably pay $600 for rent because it's cheaper than where you're from, but that's not a justification. Like you can find it. Come here, and don't try to come here to live a lavish lifestyle. Just live normal, and it just helps everyone else out at the end of the day. But again, if you want to, live a lifestyle because you like, I deserve this, I worked hard for this, live your life, spin it up, player, ball out. That's all I can say. Just be mindful. 19, fast food. So we have Burger Kings in the center, too many in the center in my opinion, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 perhaps. We have KFC as well. There's no McDonald's in the country, but they have something called Kolonat, which is like a McDonald's offshoot. Those are the only places I think that internationally people might recognize. There's no Starbucks for those who have been asking. The main thing people eat for fast food, like we have burgers in America, they have this thing called souvlaki here, or I think in Greek souvlaki or something like this. Google it. Number 20, if you have any questions, I suggest going to the Albanian subreddit. And before you ask questions there, search to see if anyone else has already asked them, because the people on the subreddit are also getting tired of foreigners asking the same damn questions all the time. So do your research there, scroll through the comment section and whatnot, and then ask your question. Most of your questions will probably be able to be answered in that subreddit. 21, oh, people have been asking to contact me, but I don't understand why though, because I can't really help that much. But I'm reachable through TikTok, which I check occasionally. But otherwise, the lawyer who's helped me and my friends get our residency, like he says something like this bro is like, he is the man and honest. So I don't know what, don't contact me, contact him for those who are asking. 22, finding jobs here. People have asked about this. So if you're an American, I think it should be pretty easy to find a job here. Also, if you're like a native Italian speaker, it's easy just because you have these languages. And I'd say the salaries that you'll probably get maybe at a call center using these languages are between $400 to $800, depending on what type of job you want. That's all I'm going to speak to because it's a really generic language skill set, and I'm pretty sure you can find a job here. I don't think that'd be hard. People like having foreigners in their company. It's a good thing. So you can find it, but keep in mind what the salary will probably be in accordance to your cost of living. Finding an apartment. People have been asking about this. The best way I would say is through a friend of a friend. You can use a realtor. That's what I did for my current place. But I think most people here actually don't use realtors because they don't want to have to pay like an extra tax. And before I was using a realtor, I was like hustling. Like I was walking every street in the neighborhood I wanted to move in. I was looking at flyers posted on like the telephone poles or on the walls, calling these numbers, checking different websites like Noftime, and like Googling like apartment meçera online, spelled M-E space Q-E-R-A, which means like for rent. But the easiest way is a real estate agency, but for the best prices, you want to put in some work and talk to people. But again, just a reminder, don't come here and pay too much, please. 24, if you come here, become an advocate for Albanians, I would say, because they don't need people here that are not advocating for them. So don't come with like Greek propaganda, because I've seen some people talk about that, and like pro-Serbia, pro-Greek, just because keep in mind that these people, like the Albanians, I think in Chamaria, like the Greeks genocided them. Those people there kicked them out of their land, stole a lot of their cultural elements to claim as their own, and how Serbia has killed a bunch of them, and like the Kosovo region, and how things are really tense. So I would say just learn a little bit of the history before you come here so you can advocate for the people properly. And I would say the same way a lot of us Americans need to advocate for Native Americans, but we don't do it because we don't want to give up our land. Don't bring that energy to Albania. I would say support the people here, get up to date historically. And there's a beautiful Albanian girl on TikTok, and she provides really insightful videos if you want like a crash course. Her name is Ariana Krasniqi, I think, and that's Krasniqi. Point 25 is an Albanian poem I think everyone should read before they come here. It's beautiful. I'll put the link in the bio as well. The guy's name is Pashko Vasa, and the title is called Moj Shqipni. Beautiful poem. Have an Albanian friend sit down and read it to you, translate it. Just read it before coming here to help like give you more insight. 26, the mafia. So dealing drugs here is crazy. I watched an Albanian documentary and there's no English subtitles. I had to have someone translate it for me as I was watching the whole time. But there's this man out here making millions of dollars a day. Like he had so much money. He was basically just telling people like, yo, sell me your business, or like, or I'm gonna put a tax in your business. And if you don't like comply, I will kill you. I will kill you, I will kill your family. Like this type of power and corruption is very open and it exists here. And it doesn't typically affect people minding their own business. So I say this so for people to know, like, not to get involved with anyone that's pushing weight. Don't get involved with anyone dealing drugs or anything like that, like even as a friend. So like, for example, if you have a friend and he's like, I don't know, 27 and he's driving around in a Maserati, come on, you know how he got that car, you know what's up. I think that, let me see, even the people here, like the mob or mafia gangsters, whatever you want to call them, have access to the street cameras too as well, from what I've heard. I don't want to confirm this, but I think they said that in the documentary. And just so you know, like this stuff happens in America too as well. The U.S. is not new to this, but here I would say it's more visible, yet it does not affect the average person's life if you don't get involved with that. Point 27, most grammar books will have mistakes in them, because I've had some Albanian friends correct the grammar books. So you cannot trust them 100% just because people are writing books, they're teaching things incorrectly, so that's just a heads up. So find an Albanian friend who loves to read. This type of person will be able to help you the most typically, to point out like mistakes in grammar books, because even the book that, if you ask for the guy Tahir to send you, it will have some grammar mistakes in it, but generally that book is hands down, like that is the best book I've seen, way better. I want to unrecommend that Discovering Albania book, because this one is way better. 28, the dancing is lit. Like, I love the volley, like the circle dancing they do when they hold hands. This is fun, and that's all night long. Learn how to do that. Look at some tutorials. Like, if you ever get the chance, like that, I just want to highlight that. It's unnecessary. It's an unnecessary point, but I want to touch on that. 29, yes, people stare. They stare hard as hell here. If that makes you feel uncomfortable, wear sunglasses or just look back and smile at them. If you're a guy, do not smile back at women because you don't know who her man is. Leave them alone. Most of the time, people stare out of curiosity, even if they look like they're mean mugging you, if they have a weird face. But they also stare at other Albanians, so don't take it personal. And it gets annoying, but you get used to it after a while. But yes, people will stare at you. Number 30, someone asked in the comment section, is it rare to meet same people in Albania? Maybe it's rare to meet same people anywhere in the world, I think. But I would say that I like Americans here more than the Americans back home, just because the ones here have left home and they have a bit more, like, they have more experiences to pull from. But I would also at the same time, not everyone that is well-traveled is like self-aware. So like, or just, I don't know, well-educated in a behavioral type of way. Like, you had this guy in Saranda, I forgot who he was, but he was lying to everyone, saying that he was like a former police officer and he was doing some illegal stuff here as well. Side note, there's a whole American community living in Saranda for some reason. I don't know why, but maybe they're retired, I think. But I also heard that he was like sexually harassing female employees. So we get people like this here as well from the US. A lot of people, I think what happens is that people realize here in Albania that it's easier to get away with illegal things or certain behaviors that they wouldn't typically do at home. And they behave according to the desires when they get here. So like, you can imagine like a person who has this like innate sense of, I want to do some bad stuff, but I can't do this in America. And they're like, oh, I'll go to this cheap third world country to do shit. Like, these type of people come here as well. But I would say the majority of people here are really cool to hang out with. They might not be the type of friends that you want to keep like forever, like best friends, but definitely if you want people to socialize with, to have a good time, they are a hoot and they plan activities like they're good for that. It may become toxic at some point, I don't know. To be honest, I haven't really gotten involved with the expat community here just because I never really needed it because I have like Albanian friends. 31, someone asked about cheap housing in a safe area. I don't know how you would define cheap. I really don't know. But I said this in my last video, Sadie, and I pay 300 euros right now a month. 2 bedrooms, 2 balconies, 2 bathrooms. Also, I think I got really lucky. But I would say generally the whole country is safe. There aren't like hoods like we have in the US. Because I know in the US, like poverty and crime go hand in hand. It's not like that here. You can have a very poor area and still have peace. Especially because here people have real communities, which we lack in the US. Number 32, someone asked about buying an apartment. The prices are high, and I would say even locals can't afford to buy property. But if you're not concerned about like the impact you have on locals, and you want to look out for yourself, and if you can afford it, I'd suggest buying an apartment in a newer building because it might be safer for you, like just for earthquakes, which we don't get often. But I think it's better safe than sorry. And I would also recommend getting one outside of the city center, like near the malls, like in these new housing complexes that are being built. I'd recommend like, and also if you plan on having a car here as well, that's what I would recommend for buying a house. Number 33, shop at local markets instead of chain stores. And I think this is normal. But like when it's possible, like buy your produce from like a local family selling it rather than like from a corporation, like one of these big markets or Interspar or something like this. And look around to see who has the best quality fruit. Stick to that place, and it's a good way to start meeting people in your neighborhood when you go there, like to make friends. And typically, if you're looking for a home, talk to these people as well, because they keep their ears to the street. They're talking to everyone every day. They are like, everyone in the community is buying their fruits at the same place that they're talking. So if you also buy your fruits at the same place, you can find out more information about your community and whatnot, because these fruits and vegetable people have contact with everyone. So that's another reason why you should shop at these places and get to know them. 34, I want to touch on because like people were calling me dismissive in my last video, saying I was dismissing other travelers' experiences by making my part 1, and I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, but I just know that people who have actually, especially because like me, like I don't know jack curse word in comparison to people who actually speak Albania, who've actually been living here longer. Like I have a friend, she's a black girl here, she's been living here since like the 90s, she was raised here. She would be the type of person to make a great video explaining this because she has a way better perspective than me. But I just see these travelers saying really generic stuff like, come to Albania, it's amazing, it's beautiful, it's cheap, people are lovely, they're kind, they're hospitable. Yes, they are. Yes, the country is beautiful, but every country in the world has natural beauty because the planet is beautiful in general. So I don't get why people say like you can't find, like they don't have beauty in their own country. It's just, I don't understand. Well, maybe it's here, it's more green. I can say this because it's less developed, so there's more nature, which could also be people. Maybe this is the reason people find it beautiful, perhaps. But I think beauty, if you want to find it and be in that environment, because no one's actually living on the beaches or in the woods, you can find it in your own country probably, somewhere. Maybe the prices vary. Here they talk about it being cheap instead of using words like affordable, and they don't highlight how it being cheap for us can make it worse for the locals. Like they don't do this in these vlog videos of traveling to Albania. And these people are making videos like, oh, I went to Albania for a week, a month. Like, bro, come on. You can't even get to know a person that fast. How do you get to know a country when you're just, you know? And they mention how people are hospitable, but they don't go into detail about the toxic social aspects that make the people living here feel like they're always being watched or have to behave a certain way. So I'm not trying to be dismissive, but I'm trying to go into a bit more depth than the average traveler because they can't offer that, because I don't know, you can't go to America once for a month and then speak about Americans. Likewise, me, I've only lived in Toronto, so I can't speak for the whole country because I haven't lived anywhere else in this country. But I haven't seen anyone else talking online about this or people living here giving their experiences. So I was like, you know what, I might as well just make a video real quick. It doesn't matter. I won't touch on that. So 35, my personal recommendation, if you plan on living here long term, I think make decisions that will help you stay here long term, like get your residency, open an Albanian bank account, make Albanian friends, try to experience things as a local, and don't be bougie with your experiences. Like, you don't have to rent a car, hop on that furgon with everyone else and do what you have to do. Shop local, learn how to cook learn how to cook the local cuisine, which I have not done yet, so I'd be a hypocrite to say that I'm doing it. Learn about the history and accept that you cannot stop the corruption, but also don't participate in it. So for example, like if you get a speeding ticket, you probably can pay the cop off and not get in trouble, but this would be an example of you contributing to the corruption. The other thing I want to say is that try to learn Albanian and not Italian. And I know it'll be hard because most people speak English or they want to speak English with you. And there'll be people who, you'll have Albanian friends and they'll be like, oh, let's practice speaking Albanian. But to me, I find it impossible to learn this way because the conversations will start in Albanian with like, you know, hey, sjeni Shqipni, mir, and then they will automatically divert into English within like a minute or two when it gets too deep. So I think the best way is to make friends with someone who doesn't speak any English if you actually want to progress, because it'll force you to actually speak and force you to learn the language, but you also need to study a bit. The next thing I think is to mind your own business for things that don't involve you unless it involves helping a person here. Yeah, but I think that's universal. Mind your own business. That's a tip. 36, people ask personal questions here when they meet you for the first time. Like people will ask you where you live, how much you pay for rent, how much money do you make, what is your job? And I know like there's like a mindset of transparency here that we don't have in the US. Because, for example, if you're paying too much for an apartment, when someone asks you, they will let you know that you're paying too much. And if you're making too little money here, which is unlikely as a foreigner, people will let you know, oh, you're not making enough money, you should be getting paid more. Like they'll ask this information, but they'll also give you some like feedback and soundboard at the same time. And if you don't want to disclose this information, you can just say like, hey, I make enough, or I don't want to talk about it, or you can just have like a pre-made story. Because you're probably never going to see these people again. You can say, oh, I make XYZ a month, and keep that number in your head and just tell that number to everyone. 37, lastly, if you haven't heard my English Albanian song, check it out. It's called Kushje. It's on Spotify, Kush space JE. And what else I want to say? Yeah, I'm going to upload this to my YouTube channel here, my secondary account. And I also want to apologize if I'm saying things in a negative way, but I'm just trying to paint like a full picture of the country with pros and cons. And I've gotten through all my 37 points, so that's it. Everyone have a nice day, and thank you. Bye.